On October 3, 1999, in the city of Baltimore, United States, the weather was rainy and unfavorable for leaving homes, but the young journalist Joseph Walker had to go out due to his important mission of covering the elections. Walker aspires to fame and hopes that his articles and investigations will have a positive impact on society. While working downtown, Joseph Walker stumbled upon a man lying on the ground, seemingly unconscious, dressed in old and tattered clothes. He approached the man and observed his facial features, realizing that he was the renowned writer and poet Edgar Allan Poe. Poe was in very poor health, and Walker immediately called for help, leading to Poe being transported to a nearby hospital. It turned out that Poe was in a severe and distressed state, suffering from hallucinations and lapses of consciousness. Unfortunately, the efforts of the doctors were not enough to save him, and Edgar Allan Poe passed away at the age of 40, just 4 days after being discovered. Prior to being found on the ground, Poe had been missing for days and had no contact with his relatives. His sudden appearance and wearing of unfamiliar clothing were puzzling, as if everything that happened was a fictional story from Poe's own tales. After his death, mysteries and questions about the cause of Edgar Allan Poe's demise persisted for over 170 years. Some historians believed that alcohol addiction was the reason for his death, but the enigmatic circumstances surrounding him left room to believe that there were other reasons behind his passing. The mystery surrounding Edgar Allan Poe's death continues to raise questions to this day. I will continue to narrate the mysterious events surrounding Edgar Allan Poe's death and attempt to explore more about his life. Edgar Poe was born in 1809 under tragic circumstances. His family's financial situation was dire due to their unstable work as traveling actors. Poe lived with the theater troupe, moving between cities to perform shows, and they lacked financial stability. In the year of his younger sister Rosalie's birth, his parents separated. This separation occurred shortly before his parents' death from a mysterious illness, with his mother succumbing to tuberculosis or tuberculosis-like symptoms. After the death of his parents, Edgar and his siblings were separated among 3 families, and he came to live with the Allan family. His name was changed to Edgar Allan Poe when he moved in with the John Allan and Frances Allan family, who changed his name completely. His relationship with the family members was unusual, as John Allan, his foster father, couldn't harbor paternal feelings towards him and never established an emotional connection with his young son. Edgar Allan Poe was peculiar in his behavior and emotions, with his feelings often crossing boundaries and being expressed in a perpetual manner. This eccentricity became a distinctive characteristic of his personality. Some people were drawn to him for his unique charm and refined art, while others kept their distance due to his peculiar actions. As he fell in love with the young and delicate girl named Elvira, the daughter of a family friend with whom he lived, a strong bond formed between Poe and Elvira. It was his first love in life. When speaking about Edgar Allan Poe's life, it becomes apparent that while his circumstances improved, they remained complex. He faced many challenges and shocks in his early life, but he endured them with resilience. At university, Poe displayed exceptional talent in language and showcased his creative writing abilities with unique imagination and style. However, his university studies only lasted for a year. The university rejected his continuation due to some negative behavior, such as alcohol consumption and other unacceptable actions. The family he lived with refused to fully support him, leaving him feeling isolated and in desperate need of money to cover his educational expenses. Elvira, whom he genuinely loved, got married to a wealthy businessman. Poe had no chance in this relationship due to the social disparities, and he had no evidence to prove that he was already financially reliant on her family. He felt lost and lonely, experiencing his first emotional failure in life. Following this difficult period, Edgar Allan Poe joined the army in 1827. At the same time, his first collection of poems was published, with the number of copies not exceeding 50. This deeply shocked the young man. The shocks in Poe's life did not end there. In the same year, his adoptive mother, Frances Allan, passed away from the same terrible illness. Although he tried to cope with this sorrowful event, the tragedy affected him deeply. He served in the army for 3 years before being discharged. Afterward, his adoptive father, John Allan, passed away, and Poe married a woman 9 years his senior. He attempted to organize his life formally and find stability. 2 years later, at the age of 23, the first positive event in his life occurred when Poe participated in a short story contest. Edgar Allan Poe's life continued with his writing, and his name began to be recognized and his works published more widely. He published The Fall of the House of Usher in 1839, a story that was particularly close to his heart. The story caught the attention of the writer Charles Dickens, who personally met Poe during his visit to America. However, Poe's fame was not accompanied by wealth and financial comfort. When he published works like The Raven, he earned only a few dollars. He couldn't afford to leave his job as an editor or write full-time due to financial constraints. He oscillated between the opportunity to focus on writing and the necessity to work as an editor. He and his wife Virginia moved from one city to another until they finally settled in New York in 1846. Virginia suffered from a mysterious illness well known to Poe, the same illness that claimed the life of his natural mother and was cared for by Frances Allan. It was tuberculosis. We will witness the events unfold in the next chapter, as we delve deeper into the events and the life story of Edgar Allan Poe. In 1842, at their small home in Philadelphia, Virginia was playing the piano and singing as she liked. Suddenly, she had a severe coughing fit, accompanied by drops of blood from her lung. Although Poe knew her illness would likely lead to her death, he held on to hope that she might miraculously recover. However, in 1847, Virginia passed away, leaving Poe alone without children or family. After Virginia's death, Poe's condition deteriorated. He was extremely sensitive and fragile, often dark and troubled due to his life experiences and personal nature. Virginia's death marked a significant turning point in his life, and afterwards, his literary works took a different course. He wrote numerous stories featuring a recurring motif of a beautiful, sickly woman who dies by the end of the tale. Following Virginia's death, Poe decided to pursue his dream of managing his own literary magazine. He embarked on a journey to secure enough funding to establish the magazine. However, conflicting accounts exist about what happened in the 2 weeks during which he delayed in Richmond. Some say that after his wife's death, he was emotionally weakened and struggled to work diligently, while others claim he forgot the deadline due to alcohol and heavy drinking. After arriving in Philadelphia, Poe entered an old tavern and started drinking until he forgot where he left his bag. He spent days in a constant state of drunkenness, and withdrawal symptoms from alcohol became severe. He was arrested due to his erratic behavior and placed in a squalid prison in Philadelphia, where his condition worsened, and he experienced harsh symptoms of alcohol withdrawal. After his condition improved, and his project was accepted by sponsors in Richmond, Poe vowed never to approach alcohol again. During this period in Richmond, he reunited with his childhood love, Elmira. This encounter brought back memories of their beautiful but tragic love from his past. This meeting inspired him to write his first story, a turning point in his unexpected life. In his professional journey in Richmond, beams of light started to shine in Poe's life, and new opportunities began to present themselves. He decided to completely transform his life and avoid alcohol altogether, a decision that was inspired by the success of his professional journey in Richmond. With this resolution and the help of Elmira, Poe began to build an entirely new life, away from the darkness that had surrounded him. A fresh opportunity awaited him, with renewed hopes for a better future. Withdrawal symptoms and paranoia faded away, and he regained his composure and psychological balance. Life gave him new chances to shine and innovate, as he prepared to continue his literary and professional journey with vigor and optimism. Thus, the story of the pit and the pendulum and the impact of alcohol in Edgar Allan Poe's life came to an end. His life was filled with challenges and psychological struggles, but with determination and resolve, he managed to overcome them and achieve great success in the field of literature, gaining widespread fame and a significant position among writers and authors. Elmira, the widow, was Edgar Allan Poe's childhood love. Poe began to rekindle their relationship, and they embarked on a new love story together. As things were going well in Poe's life, With his work on the magazine and his success in writing, he felt happiness and pride in his friends, who were proud to be close to Edgar Allan Poe, the famous and beloved writer. In 1849, everything seemed to be going smoothly. Poe decided to travel to New York to wrap up his affairs there and sell any possessions associated with him before returning to Richmond to begin a new chapter in his life, filled with happiness and success. However, things began to unravel as he couldn't uphold his promise to himself to stay away from alcohol. He started attending parties and drinking alcohol frequently, seemingly forgetting the harm that could result from such behavior. Despite that, there were no clear indications at that time of his struggles and challenges. He always appeared cheerful and optimistic in his interactions with others, but looking back at what was happening, it was evident that this facade was a mere act to hide his true feelings. Despite his professional success, he couldn't confront his psychological and mental challenges or restrain his constant desire for alcohol. As a result, this period represented a difficult and tumultuous time in Edgar Allan Poe's life. In Edgar Allan Poe's famous story The Masque of the Red Death, death commits its crime in a cunning and deceitful manner. It hides behind the carnival mask, where everyone gathers for merriment and amusement, attempting to disguise its true identity and make everyone believe they are safe. Poe himself was suffering from a need that he did not disclose to anyone, as evidenced by his sudden decision to travel to New York and not postpone the trip despite Elmira, his beloved's complaints. Signs of his deep sadness were evident that day, but he didn't give himself a chance to talk about his difficult mental state. During his planned trip to New York, Poe met with a group of financiers and friends, and they spent enjoyable time together. Although everyone confirmed that he hadn't consumed any alcohol and seemed cheerful and optimistic, things took a sudden turn. The next morning, Poe disembarked from the boat in Baltimore, and he didn't reach his intended destination in Richmond. News began to spread about his disappearance and the mystery of what happened to him during the period from September 27 to October 3. Eventually, he was found lying in the mud and rain after 4 days, dressed in specialized attire for his death. Poe's final journey remains shrouded in mystery, and no one has been able to pinpoint exactly what happened to him in those few days when he disappeared. The only certain thing is his death during that period, but the debate continues about the reasons and circumstances of his death and the sudden cessation of his life.